When great tragedies strike cultures, people will predictably experience the full arc of emotions no different than the stages of grief. Sadly, all too often, elected officials will become more preoccupied with party platforms and political positioning. Join us as we go down to Phoenix to pay our tributes to the Charlie Kirk Memorial and visit the state capitol. But first, we stop by the Wall of Heroes. Thank you so much for joining us at Yeti. The reason we're doing this expose is because of the profound opportunities and impact that a governor can have on any crisis. A governor of a state is the chief executive officer. They are the ones who set the tone, who demonstrate great statesmanship and guidance. See, an important distinction to make is that the chief executive officer of a state, the governor, not only has a profound opportunity to set the temperature, to provide an example of statesmanship and give people an example to follow, they have an obligation, codified by oath of office, to support the endeavors of the citizens of their state. In other words, it's absolutely necessary that the governor participate in this. When a prominent resident of your state suffers a great tragedy, you are obligated to participate in the healing process. Now, who am I to be talking to you about this? In short, I'm an Arizona native, proud Arizona native. Born and raised in Tempe, I worked as an executive chef for 25 years, so I understand the public sector and leadership very well. I was also a sworn peace officer for 14 years, starting as a volunteer and eventually working my way to a sergeant's rank, leading a squad of the finest peace officers Western civilization has ever seen. I have a bachelor's degree in public relations from Northern Arizona University with a focus in crisis communication. And I'm currently enhancing that with a master's degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in aviation safety sciences with a focus on human factors. So let's take a quick look at the inputs that the current governor of the great state of Arizona has made. Look at a few missed opportunities or absences. And let's take a historical walk back into how her administration began and some of the turmoil that surrounded that. There's been a great deal said recently about the discord and rancor in the public arena in dealing with political ideologies and diametrically opposed positions. I'm Gen X. We were taught in kindergarten, you don't call people names. You can focus on the facts and the specifics. So we're back here today in front of the Executive Tower, almost 2 years to the date when we were here last, to talk about the power and the effectiveness of proper public relations. If I was on staff with the governor, there are a couple of strong recommendations that I would make and suggestions to add to the consideration. First and foremost, we always say in baseball, never be in a hurry to make a bad throw. However, in public relations, we also say right now is too late. When crises happen, quick, effective, and positive communications is the proper prescription. Now, considering where the assassination took place in Utah, a neighboring state to Arizona with a common shared border and a long, fruitful relationship of cooperation, the first public relations recommendation would have been to the governor to be on that plane and to be to Utah ASAP and be there at the press conference when they discuss some of these hardships. Again, every citizen deserves the same level of respect. All men are created equal, but this is a prominent, high-profile citizen in an absolutely horrible catastrophe. So that being said, that would have been the first one. The second one that I found interesting would be the statements that were issued. There was a tweet put out on X, or an X, stating condolences, but then went to say that the proper methodology, the proper mechanism for civil discourse is at the ballot box. I, for one, would recommend that that is a massive misstep for Governor Katie Hobbs. At the beginning of her administration, she was embroiled in a profound election controversy. There were many people, there were court cases filed, challenges, and there has been a lot of news coverage over election irregularities and other issues surrounding that gubernatorial election. In public relations, you don't throw fuel onto the fire of the very thing that you're trying to overcome. Now, without passing any value judgments on whether or not that election had irregularities and was controversial, you wouldn't reference that. And furthermore, you are incorrect, Governor. The correct method and the correct message is that we need to engage with one another on an exchange of ideas. We need to have the courage to communicate directly with each other, and to do that with civil discourse in the public arena. True effective executive leadership comes from engaging with people directly, across both sides of the aisle, the nonpartisan, irrelevant of politics, to be out, to be available, to be visible, and to show that you're in command, and you show that you have the reins of power, and that everything is being considered, and all reasonable steps are being taken to ensure everybody's safety. That didn't happen. We look back at Margaret Chase Smith's example in the 50s and 60s. She was in the legislative body from the East Coast, but she had put up this quote here, and I'll paraphrase, but what she was trying to say with this quote is that executive leadership, elected leadership, must represent all constituents. They must speak for everybody equally, regardless of affiliation. Her character was aimed towards principles over politics, and I think that's an example that we should look at today. Let's roll around to the Capitol side and let's talk about our experience 2 years ago when we attempted to communicate with this governor. Politics aside, I love the Capitol grounds. Been coming here since the early 70s. I'm reminded of the catalog of videos we have regarding the election issue and the Capitol grounds in general. Please, if you have the inclination to check out a few of those, you might find them interesting. Once we're done with this, we will have had our fill of political issues, and we'll head over to the Charlie Kirk Turning Point headquarters.
Hey, how are you, man?
I am cool.
Yeah, exactly.
No lo puedo creer.
Check.
So we're here in the Capitol Building Plaza. They're setting up for a lovely event, so we might get serenaded again with some Vicente Fernandez, the old-fashioned corridos I grew up and loved so much. The reason we came over here to shoot just now is it's A, in the shade, and B, it reminds us of being here almost 2 years ago and attempting to contact Governor Hobbs to speak about some of these issues surrounding the election and the seating of her administration. You can see here by some of the examples, I went through every process to request media credentials, to follow up with the PR team, and to schedule appointments to come. The first premise was just to get a people's tour of the public spaces of the executive office to kind of show people the inside of that and make the citizens of Arizona feel as though they're part of this. Now, I never got a response. I never got told yes, or I never got told no. But instead, I got what some people would call the runaround, the sidestep. And it went from no response to fill out this form to you need to use this font. You requested in the wrong font, so we need to change the font so that the system will see it. And then ultimately, I got this error message. And after 18 or 20 attempts, no contact with anybody from the PR team. Now, to sequester yourself away from the public goes against Lincoln's very principles of leadership, that you shouldn't fail to see people who call on you. That way you know the very thing that you're dealing with. Here we are 2 years later, and it would appear to the layman, the observer, that the only communications that the governor is known to consistently engage in would be those carefully scripted opportunities utilizing party-approved platforms and outlets, nothing outside of the script. And that's a shame. so difficult to cover an event like this. You've got to hang on to dignity first. And all the public relations in the world, all the political posturing means nothing if you're not a human being first with a soul. And the human side of this is really the only thing that matters. We're outside of global headquarters right now, and you can see there are hundreds of people here, and the memorials keep pouring in as they should. My only piece of advice to the Chief Executive Officer of the state of Arizona as of Monday, September 15th, 2025, is to be that human being first. To strip away all the layers of pretense and political posturing and platforms and just be a human being. That would solve everything that comes after. Let's just spend a moment for Charlie. Check, check. So like a lot of you, I've been at a complete loss for words. I've been bouncing off the guardrails between angry and brokenhearted. Something that helped me tremendously though, I attended a candlelight vigil in Prescott, Arizona on the 11th. It was very small and impromptu, but it was utterly beautiful. I attended another one in Williams, a little bit larger, still just as beautiful. And hearing from my children's age group, 26 to 22, and their words are what really helped me. The Utah governor, he said that history will determine if this is a turning point for our nation, but we can decide if this is a turning point for us. And I personally am using this and letting this be a turning point for me. Retired out of law enforcement a couple of years ago, and I've been real quiet. And I'm trying to find that voice, and by speaking today, I don't think my words can help anything, but it's good for me and it helps me. Abraham Lincoln said at the Gettysburg Address that history will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. And he was speaking of the soldiers at Gettysburg. But I want to change those words and have him speak about the victims of political violence who have received a political assassin's bullet. There's too many, and Charlie is the one that hurts the most recently. I grew up in Tempe, just a stone's throw from here, and seeing you all out here is good for me. It's very good, and I hope everybody, if getting up on the mic isn't your medicine, maybe you guys can find a little of that medicine where you need to. So I just wanted to say thank you, and God bless everybody.
Hi. I'm just looking for the hat lady.
I bet she'll be back up.
Awesome. That would be awesome.
Oh no, you're fine. Sorry. You got great ankles, dude. I'm gonna leave you in the film.